Winter arrived, and soon it was Valentine's Day, 2011. My husband picked me up from the train station after a long day of nannying for me and bartending for him. In the car, on the way to the barn, he brandished that day's fistful of women in front of my face. I kept quiet, too tired, too cold to speak. We arrived at the barn, and we walked through the snow and over the wooden plank that existed in place of steps and entered the structure. Inside the barn, the air smelled like something was dying. Love, perhaps. Tucked in the deep left corner of the barn was our trusty queen-size mattress. Surrounding the mattress were space heaters and piles of bricks. Strung from the rafters here and there were naked light bulbs. I had memorized to walk around these light bulbs with my eyes closed because the burning glass promised to singe the skin if touched. All around us, due to the fire, big black patches of coal and burned wood kept us company. It was like the walls of our home had been licked by darkness. For Valentine's Day, I had baked 2 heart-shaped cakes. One for the boy I nannied and one for my husband. My husband took his cake, reclined on the bed, and began eating the cake using his fingers, all the while regaling me with details about the other women he had flirted with that night. You better run, baby, run, baby, better run, baby, run, baby, better run, baby, run, baby, better run, 'cause he's coming for you. Suddenly, I felt the rush, the surge of the past merging with the present, of pain turning into poetry, of words compressing into power. No! The words sounded so foreign, so unlike me, like a small, cold, hard pebble perched on my tongue, waiting to be spat out. What? He frowned. No! You are not the one who decides my identity. I am the author of my life, and I was born for a story so much bigger than you. To speak is a revolution, and it was time to ignite mine. The first no is always the hardest, but the voice is a muscle, and the more you use it, the stronger it grows. That first time...
So something that really struck me from Reema's presentation was when she talked about her first no, when she said no to her ex-husband for the very first time, and he kind of laughed in her face. And it reminded me of my first no, which seemed kind of silly because it was like when I was in middle school, but there was this boy who would always come up to me and hug me, and I didn't know him. He weirded me out. I was really uncomfortable with it, but I didn't want to be rude, you know? But then one day I realized I was like, no, I don't want to touch him. I don't want him to touch me. I don't owe him anything. He's not entitled to me. And I said no. And then he called me a bitch. And then at that point I was just like, okay, whatever, you know, and then he never bothered me again. And progressively after that, I started to use no more and more. And then I found power with that word. And it was like, this is a great word to use. And I think that it just definitely, it kind of pinpoints your value of yourself and what you owe to yourself rather than what you owe to other people. And it made me realize that there's so many women in my life, and grown women, you know, that still haven't had the experience of that first no.
Something that connects me with Reema was how we both were like foreigners. Yeah. And like I came from Ethiopia, where like she came from Bangladesh, and how like from where I came from, boys were like the kings of the house. It's like whenever someone walks in, everybody stands up and they're like, what can I do for you? Like everyone says that to them. And I remember one time my mother told me, one of my uncles, he's young, and like she always tells me not to be too interactive with him. As a child, I wouldn't know why, because I'd be like, why? He's my uncle. Why would he do anything to me, right? But then I heard a lot of stories, uncles, dads raping their children, and I was amazed. And like by the time Reema talked about how the situation was in Bangladesh, I was like, yes, that's what I saw when I was like 8 or 9. It's like a really young age to to hear about this stuff. Her book inspires like every woman to speak about it, because there are like people, like women shut up in their home with abusive husbands, abusive brothers, abusive like fathers. We never know what happens inside.
I remember walking in and seeing Reema on stage, and I was so excited because as a principal, you want to have a school where kids feel safe and welcomed and honored. And I was noticing that our girls have been going through a lot. You know, there's like sexual harassment and surviving sexual assault, and it was just something. It was like right on time because we're not talking about it. And so going in and seeing Reema on stage and delivering this message not only to our girls but to our young men as well was so powerful for me. And she's just so poetic, and the way that she tells the story, it's just so beautiful. But for me, I'm a survivor of domestic violence and sexual abuse, and so I remember growing up and never having this experience and never having anyone talk to me about it or having role models that would talk about this with me, and this is so powerful.
When Reema came and spoke with our students, one of the things that I take away that will probably stay with me for a very long time is a question that a young man posed about how he writes, how he gains his motivation to be a writer. And one of the things he spoke about was writing from his pain. And one of the pieces of advice that she gave this student was to not solely focus on your pain as your muse. Don't let your pain be your muse as your only motivation and source of writing, because you are so much more than the pain or the experiences of pain that you've had. Your life is so much more rich. And then another piece of advice that came alongside of that was speaking from your scars instead of your wounds, which is the spirit of hope. It's the spirit of transcendence. It's the spirit of, I've learned from this and now I'm able to speak and move forward versus living within the hurt that initially caused. And for young people who are experiencing life in fast forward motion at all times and trying to make sense of not only the world they live in, but who they are as young people and who they're going to be next year when they graduate, that was a really, really critical message. I watched that young man. I watched him just digest the information and see things through new eyes, that he's so much more than just the hurt that he may have experienced. He's a full young man, and he has so much experience that can be his motivation for writing, not only the things that hurt him, but also the things that he celebrates inside of his life.
One reason why I think that Reema is such an inspiration for young people and old people, just whoever, no matter the age, is because she has taken what she's been through and recognized it, and then opened up this whole new part of herself, which is super vulnerable and something that a lot of people can't do. And she's just basically been so vulnerable with showing people her scars from the hardships that she's been through and sharing them with others, and then showing them to them not exactly for sympathy, but for showing them that this is where I'm at right now, this is how I got it through it, I'm still breathing, I'm still alive, and here's how I got through it. And just her willingness and caring for people to see what she's been through and understand that she got through it, and her being open on how she did it, is just something that is super inspirational for me and a lot of other people who got to have the opportunity to watch her speak.
To speak is a revolution, and it was time to ignite mine. The first no is always the hardest, but the voice is a muscle, and the more you use it, the stronger it grows. That first time that I said no to my husband, he laughed and then grew angry. But I kept saying no, 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 until finally we separated. Carbon, when exposed to extreme heat and enormous pressure, becomes diamond. I am so happy that he never bought me a ring. I am and I contain so much more than anything he could have given me. I am so grateful that he destroyed us. Had I remained his wife, I would have lived a smaller life. I don't know if I am a leader as much as I am a messenger. And perhaps that's what a leader is, a conduit of a larger story. I stand here as a mirror and a reminder of the fire and the light within every woman. My body and spirit were designed for resilience, designed to turn pain into poetry, wound into wisdom, fury into fortitude, grit into grace, past into the future. I wasn't born to be a victim. I wasn't born to be a survivor. I was born to be a warrior, born to grow stronger with every wound, every obstacle, every abuser, every insult that the world presses down upon me. Carbon, when exposed to extreme heat and enormous pressure, becomes diamonds. I am a woman, and we women are diamonds at the highest shine. We don't need to run anymore, my love. It is time to rise. Thank you.